welcome back, and you find me in the woodshed yet again on a stormy, wet, rainy day. I'm not wasting today. I'm going to sharpen my knives. I've got 3 of them, main knives. They're not the best quality of knives, but they're the ones I've used over many years, and I'm just going to show you how I keep them sharp and able to perform the tasks that I require them to do. And the season is fast approaching for me to harvest sticks for my craft business, so they need to be sharp and ready. So there's my 3 knives, and it's just a basic standard pocket knife, a knife that was a locking one, that the locking mechanism went. I actually liked the actual knife, and as you can see, I welded it up, so it's now a fixed blade. But yeah, I've been using that for years and years. And then obviously my bushcrafting knife here, which it's got a bit dull and hasn't seen much use over the last few months, because I've been able to do it with these 2 here. So basically how I go about it, I use water for the actual sharpening stone as the lubricant, and I've got WD-40, which I then put on afterwards just to give the blade a little bit of protection against rust and corrosion. But to get back to the sharpening stone, it's just a straight blocked sharpening stone. It has a rough grit on one side, as you can see there, and a light grit on the other side. And basically you can denote that just by looking at it. You can easily see the bands, and you can see the various grits on it. As you can see, this one here is well used, and I have a block which has, if you can look at it, nails which I'm using as pegs. When you're using a sharpening stone, you can use it in your hand as I've got it here and run your knife up and down, but that doesn't give you the best result. If the sharpening stone is fixed in position somewhere, as I will show you in here, that provides you a better degree of control over the knife with the angle as you bring backwards and forwards. And it's keeping a steady, constant angle which will give you the best result on your blade, because if you're producing different pitches and angles as you're running that stone over the blade, it stands to reason that what you're going to end up with is an uneven surface along the cutting edge. This knife here, as you can see, it's abused, and it is my main knife that goes everywhere. This one needs a bit more attention, so I'm not going to use the fine grit to start with. I'm going to spin it around and use the harder grit, or the more coarse grit, shall I say. You can see my sharpening stone is dirty there, and that's from when I was sharpening an axe. But I'm just going to put a fine bit of water on the actual stone, and with the blade I'm going to make an angle on it, and I'm going to stick to that angle, and I'm going to run it along, and I'm going to draw it back on both sides, keeping the same pitch and angle. I want everything to be uniformed. And I can feel that hard grit actually working on the blade as I draw it across now. I don't have to be quick, I don't have to hurry, I can just concentrate on keeping a nice pitch and angle as I run it along the stone. And you can hear it and feel it doing what it should do through the actual blade. Now what I'm going to do, it's actually flowing a lot better, so I can tell I'm already removing a lot of the damage on that actual blade. You only want to do it with the hard grit as much as you've got to do it, because if you continue to do it just for the sake of doing it or overdo it, all you're doing is removing metal from that blade. There. Now I'm going to take it over to the fine grit. I'm going to put a bit of water on the stone, and now what I'm going to do, I'm going to run it along here, and you can instantly feel the difference. It's a lot more smoother when you run it across that actual fine grit, and it actually has a different pitch to the sound. And all I'm doing is concentrating on actually the blade, the pitch, and keeping the same angle. And it's a lot easier to do that if you actually have it in a fixed location like I've got it here. The stone can't move. All I've got to do is concentrate with my eye and hand and getting that very same pitch and angle as I run it. And as you can see, it's flowing a lot better. And as I move that blade to do the final bit of sharpening, I'm now going to slow it down and not apply any pressure, and just let the blade just run along the top here now. This is just the actual final sharpening motion. There's no pressure being applied by my hand at all. Just put a bit more water on. You don't need to swamp it. These stones are quite porous, so they do hold a lot of water. And the stone blocks will eventually become impregnated with oil and products that you might have put on your knife anyway. So I feel that's good enough now. What I'm going to now do is move on to my block, and I don't have a leather strop, which would be what you'd want to use next. What I have is an angle on the block, and because I've got so much and it's been used so often, the paste, water and oiled paste from this block is all on there. It's providing a very, very fine paste impregnated in that wood, which will now polish my angle on my actual blade. So all I'm going to do is just run it down and across like this. This is basically my strop, and all I'm doing is just giving that blade a polish, and I'm taking my burrs off the blade, and I'll continue to doing that, and it's flowing very nicely. Yet again, concentrating on keeping an angle on that blade. You don't want to upset the work that you've already done on that blade, so it's just about keeping that flow. So now I've got sharp blades, and I've sharpened all these ones here, and I've done the same test and it's worked. I'm just going to get my oil product, just run over the blades. Like I said, it's just about stopping them corroding or rusting, because I've used water as my lubricant on the actual sharpening stone. So I'm just giving them a quick going over, and then I'll just wipe off the excess oil product that I've got on my actual blade. I'm just using a piece of wood here just to take the excess off. You could use a rag and whatever you're doing. If you're using oils, always remember that oils, you know, can be carcinogenic. You should wear gloves and all safety precautions, like I say, when you're using products. But yeah, so I've now got all three of my blades oiled and ready to go. So there you go, there's all three of my knives fully done. They're all sharpened and ready for me to use. I can just pick them straight up off the shelf. And yeah, it's as easy and quick as that. That's just been pretty much 5 or 10 minutes of my time, and they're all complete. Right then, so let's see what it would do to this piece of wood and see if this knife now has an edge. I've just run it over once or twice and I was quite happy with it, but I'll just let you see that a sharp knife makes all the difference. And as you can see, I'm pulling off big chunks of wood here. They're flying everywhere and they're coming off really easy, not having to put too much effort in. And this is the sort of size wood you'd process in the woods. As you can see, that's really digging in, and this is a sizable piece of wood. And I'm taking off chunks like this with each pass. So yeah, I'm more than happy with the edge on this blade, and it'll serve me well in the woods and in the field conditions that I'll be putting it under good use. But I just have to say that ultimately the main principle of knife sharpening is keeping the same angle and same pitch over that particular knife edge, so you get a uniformed edge to that blade, and then to polish it up gradually, going through the grits and going through the motions to take the burrs off, and ultimately you should end up with a nice sharp blade then. You can get devices to sharpen blades. I don't have one, I'm just doing it as you see it here, and it kind of works for me. But you will ultimately find your own slight variations or methods to sharpening a blade, and yeah, whatever works for you works for you. But yeah, if you're sharpening though, always be aware that you do have a blade in your hand. It's all too easy to lose concentration and cause a cut or an injury to yourself, so always take care when you're doing something like this with blades. But yeah, I just thought I'd let you see how I sharpen my blades and how successful I am with it. So yeah, this is Andy, and I hope to catch you in the woods and the fields at some point, if not on the trail. Cheers.